to part 3 of Robot Adventures tries to explain the crimes of Grindelwald to Hot Rod here. So, yeah, this is part 3. Part 2 and 1 are somewhere on this channel. So go find those. It's a little bit complicated to understand the story. You have to have some understanding of Harry Potter and where they're coming from. So, but yeah. So yeah, let's start. I have a cold, and sucking down these halls, but halls. So in part 2, we left off at the end of the Hogwarts scene. So we saw that we get, some people are saying that Credence or Corvus Lestrange is coming back, and some people are saying Credence is that, and Dumbledore wants the vial that Grindelwald has. Oh, spoilers! A bunch of spoilers. That Grindelwald has, which is the blood pact, and if Dumbledore can get that, then maybe he can stop Grindelwald. All right. So after the Hogwarts scene, we go back to the safe house, and we have Newt Scamander's suitcase on the floor, and he's inside there. Jacob is like, "Hey, why don't you come out here? Talk to Tina and stuff like that." She's out here, and Newt's in the suitcase, and turns out that he's trying to befriend the Zoe, the dragon. And the dragon, because he was in the circus, has a bunch of chains on him to, I guess, keep him under control. And Newt tries to take the chains off. So I was like, "Oh, I'm going to take your chains off." Oh, yay. So the dragon becomes his friend. So they're like, "Yay, we're friends now." Okay. Then he comes out of the suitcase, and Tina's like, "Hey, do you have something that will help Yosef remove that parasite or fix him because he's paralyzed, and he might know where Credence is." And so Newt's like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll hook him up." And he removes the parasite and gives it to Jacob, and Yosef wakes up and says, "Oh, I must kill Credence." And Tina's like, "Well, I'm out of here. I'm gonna go to the ministry with this kind of information." And Jacob's like, "Oh, go after her, Newt. She's taking off." And so Newt goes after her, and come by. He's like, "No, wait, Tina's kind of angry with him because, like, I read some of the things that you said, and you said that Aurors are a bunch of, like, muscleheads and dumbasses." He's like, No. You're not one of those. You got some kind of, like, Hydra middlehead, something. He compliments her in his, goofy animal way. And we see a bunch of, like, black veils flying over the city, and it's like, "Oh, look, it's Grindelwald calling his supporters to him," and And we see Queenie. She's like on the street somewhere, and she's like, "Oh, black veil," and she touches it, and she gets, I guess it teleported away to the location of the Grindelwald meeting, the meeting that he's like, "Oh, guys, please follow me," and I'm a super cool guy, and then Tina's like, "Oh well, we gotta find Credence," and Newt's like, "Oh, maybe they will. Maybe we should go to the French Ministry of Magic." And she's like, "Well, why should we go there? Because Credence wouldn't go there." It's like, "Yeah, but there's a special box in there that will tell us who Credence is." How Newt knows this, I don't know. But it's like, oh yeah, this is something that I know. Oh, okay. That's kind of weird. Maybe in the book it's explained more, but it's just like, oh, I know that the answer to who Credence is in the French ministry. Well, why didn't you go there at the beginning? Why didn't you just like, oh, everyone knows that the answer to who Credence is at the French ministry. Oh, then why waste all this time going around doing all this other stuff if you already knew? Oh, okay. That would seem like a big or a weird plot hole or something. But he needs Polyjuice Potion because he's not supposed to be overseas to get into the French ministry. It's like, okay. So that's set up. So Tina and Newt are gonna go to the French ministry. And back at oh no, before that happens, we see the next scene is Credence and Nagini like hanging around the rooftop of where they were when they saw when they saw the nanny. And hey, that's Grindelwald. And Grindelwald appears and says, "Hey." And Credence is like, "What do you want?" It's like, "Oh, I don't want anything from you. I want something for you. And if you come to this secret location, I'll give you a bunch of information about what you seek and who you are and all that stuff." It's like, "Okay, I'll go to that place." Then, Jacob is back at Nicholas Flamel's house, and he wakes up. He was taking a nap, and he's like, wakes up, and Joseph is still there, passed out, and Jacob's like, "Oh, who are you?" He's like, "Oh, I'm Nicholas Flamel. I'm an alchemist. I've lived, a long ass time." And it's like, "Oh, okay." And then Nicholas is like, "Hey, come look at this crystal ball." He's like, "Hey, look, there's Queenie, and there's Credence and that." Well, he doesn't know who Nagini is, but hey, look, it's Credence, the boy. And it's like, "Where is this?" "Oh, this is in the cemetery, the Lestrange family tomb." It's like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna go there. So please take care of Joseph." But Joseph is gone. It's like, "Oh, I'm off." So he goes off to the cemetery to find Queenie. And then Nicholas Flamel goes into a cabinet, opens it up, you see the Philosopher's Stone, and he opens up a book, and he's like flipping through it and finds a picture of someone. It's like, "Oh." And the picture's like, "Well, you gotta help them. You gotta stop, any of this, bad stuff." And he's like, "Well, I haven't seen action for 200 years. So, 200 years ago, there was some big kind of stuff happening, which is kind of cool, and I think it would be really interesting flashback to see what happened when Nicholas Flamel was, all super cut and shit, and like, throwing fucking alchemy shit. What would alchemy magic look like? For fucking bombs or something? Who knows? But, Yeah, that would be really cool. Um, I hope they visit that. And so Nicholas Flamel is was part of some kind of other organization, which knows about Grindelwald and his activities and stuff, and um, is trying to control it or maintain it or something like that. So maintain the order, not let it get out of control. Um, which is cool, and which would be cool if McGonagall was also part of that organization, and maybe Dumbledore knew a little bit about it, but he was too young to be part of it or something. Who knows? But there's another organization, maybe the Original Order of the Phoenix, but. And yeah, so that's I guess that's pretty much the setup. So everyone's gonna go to the Ministry now. I mean, not to the Ministry, to the we're getting into part 3, third act. So Newt and Tina go to the French Ministry, and they're like, okay, so Newt takes a little bit of polyjuice to look like his brother to get into the French Ministry because he's not allowed to be overseas. And he gets in, and you see a scene where his brother Theseus and Lita Lestrange are like, "Oh, we're gonna go stop this meeting. That's the Grindelwald meeting." And she's like, "Oh, be careful." I was like, "Yeah, I will be careful." And a lot of people say that your brother Corvus is still alive, or is probably Credence or something. It's like, "No, my brother's dead." And Theseus was like, "Yeah, the records will show that." All these records. And so Newt and Tina are trying to get to the records, to see the records. And Theseus sees Newt and says, "Hey, come back here," which is kind of weird because at the beginning he was like, "Hey, take care, man. They're looking after you." He hugs them and stuff, and Newt says, he's a hugger. But then he's chasing them, and then he's like, "Hey, stop!" And he throws a spell at Tina and Newt, and Tina blocks it, and then reverses and ties up Theseus. And Newt's like, "Oh, that was my best day of my life." And they got some weird kind of like, "I love you, but." I don't know what. It's like Newt doesn't like being loved or something, or doesn't. I don't know. That relationship is kind of weird. He seems like it was an abusive relationship, but also a loving relationship. So I don't know how that worked. And so they get down to the records, and it's really like, what? Okay, so. They just say, "Hey, this is Lita Lestrange. We're here to see the records," and the records keeper's like, "All right," without any ID or anything. It's like, "All right, go on in, whatever." And Tina's like, "Oh, this is my fiance," and then they're going through, and Tina's like, "Well, I'm happy for you," and Newt's like, "Oh, don't be happy because I'm not happy and I'm not engaged," and it's like, "What? Oh, there's a misprint." They haven't had that much time to talk. It's just been like, boom, 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 super fast mini activities, and they really haven't had a time to talk. But still, so this is like 3/4 of the way through the movie, and they're just finally realizing, "Oh, okay, well, you're not engaged and stuff." And they have that scene like, "Oh, your eyes are like salamanders." Oh, so touching. Very cute. So they're looking for the records, and then Lita Lestrange comes in, because she was at the ministry, and she's like, "Oh, Lita Lestrange, or Lestrange Vault or Records or something," and the there's the bookshelf column thing that her records are in comes towards her, and Newt and Tina are hiding on it, and she sees the Bowtruckle. She looks into the vault and it says, "Oh, the items have been moved to the Lestrange family vault." So that's when Abernathy took the thing from the ministry and took it to the family vault. So the records have been moved and probably tampered with. So, Lita's like, "Oh, hi, Newt," and Tina's like, "Oh, hi, hi, who are you? I don't know." And then the records keeper lady comes down with some cats, which are not cats, but magical creatures, and like, "What are you guys doing down here?" Which is kind of like, wow, you are such a bad record keeper. That lady should be fired. And Newt's like, "Oh, those are magical creatures. They won't hurt you." And then Lita fires Stupefy at them. And then unless you attack them. And then so they start multiplying in it like the Hufflepuff cup and start attacking them. And so they're like, running through the records, the bookshelves and stuff like that, and all the bookshelves get sucked away, moved out of the way, and then it's just a suitcase on the floor, and it's like the cats are like, "Oh, where'd they go?" I was like, boom! Out pops the dragon, and they're like, "Oh, let's ride the dragon and get out of here." So they ride the dragon and get out of there, and they get over to the cemetery. Now everyone is at the cemetery. We had Queenie at the cemetery from the Vale. We had we had Jacob. We had Credence and Nagini, and now we have everyone else. Yosef also knew. So, come on. My throat is shit. So, Jacob is going into the cemetery looking for Queenie, and Yosef is there. It's like, "Hey, don't move," or something like that. What? Fucking. Maybe he doesn't know that Jacob is a Muggle, but it's like, "Yeah, dude, I'm a Muggle." And he also gets a drop on Credence and Nagini, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta kill you because you're the guy who I gotta kill." And here's where a whole bunch of exposition happens. So, Lita Lestrange and Newt and Tina are at the Lestrange vault, and they see Yosef, and he's like, "Hey, don't do that." And Yosef is explaining, "Oh, I have to kill him because," and he tells the backstory of what he thinks what happened to him. And here's where the twists come in. So, Yosef, is the son of two super, pure-blood wizards in Senegal, I want to say. Some country, I forgot where. I want to say Senegal, but they're like pure-bloods or something. And, so it's, his mom is dead, and him, and I forgot the Lestrange's first name, but Mr. Lestrange likes his mom. So he uses the Imperious Curse to take his mom away from his family and rape her and have a baby with her, and she dies in the birthing process, and so she's dead. But he's got a daughter, and that is Lita Lestrange, half sister to Yusuf Kama. And then he marries another lady because he just wants a son, and he has a boy with this lady, and that's Corvus Lestrange. That's a boy, and it's like, oh, I love this boy, and that boy is a half brother to Lita Lestrange, and so Yusuf made a unbreakable vow to his father on his deathbed that Yusuf would kill the thing that Mr. Lestrange loved the most. And he was going to kill Lita Lestrange, but Mr. Lestrange didn't love her. Mr. Lestrange loved Corvus. So knowing that Corvus was in trouble, he sent the little elf lady, half elf lady, and Lita Lestrange and Corvus Lestrange off to America. And they were supposed to give Corvus Lestrange to the adoption agency to help raise him and stuff like that. But what happened on the boat on the way to America was that Lita Lestrange switched babies because Corvus Lestrange cried a lot, and then the boat sank, and when the boat was sinking, they took the different babies, and the baby that she took, which was Corvus Lestrange, was just some other baby, and Corvus Lestrange drowned. So he's dead. I guess as dead as, the story will allow him to be dead. Oh no, he wasn't dead. He came back to life. Something, I don't know. But he's dead. And then they gave the other baby from whoever, nobody knows who that baby is, to the orphanage and stuff like that. And that is Credence, that other baby. But nobody knew that except for Lita Lestrange. So and maybe Dumbledore and some of the other people was like, no, my brother died, and maybe they didn't say that they took him to the orphanage, but. Which is kind of weird because, she's like, oh, no, my brother is dead. But was that the story that they were giving out? Like, oh, no, my brother died at sea. Instead of, oh, no, we sent him to the orphanage in secret. But, they're like, oh, no, he died. But so when they open up the Lestrange family tree, it shows that Corvus is part of the tree, and this is something that they didn't explain. Is that do the records know if someone is alive or dead by them? So if someone dies, do the records automatically update themselves and say, "Oh, he's dead"? And they know that, that person's dead. Or do they have to be updated by someone? And if the records automatically update, and Grindelwald took the records and opened them up and said, oh, look, Corvus is actually dead. Well, we can't have that. We want to make Credence look like Corvus. Then Grindelwald changed the records, and then put them in the family tomb to say, oh look, Corvus is Credence. Oh, that's a good thing. And maybe that's why they took the record. So the whole record thing is kind of weird. And finally, at the end, it's like, okay, so nobody knows who Credence is. So that's still a mystery. Who is Credence? Why is he super powerful? So they hear the noise from the cemetery where all the people are gathering. And Queenie is with the people, and everyone else is in the Lestrange family tomb. So they go over to where the people are gathering, and Jacob finds Queenie. He's like, "Oh, Queenie, I love you. Let's get out of here. Oh, I love you too. Let's go." And but Queenie says, "Oh no. Let's stay and listen to what he has to say." And Jacob was like, "What? No." And Newt and Tina's like, "Oh, this is a trap." He's the whole, the Queenie and the family tree and stuff like that. It's all been to get us here. And he gives a speech, and he's like, "Oh, friends and brothers," and he uses his magical skull to show the future, like the A-bomb and stuff, and he says, "Oh, Aurors are here," and people are like, "What? Aurors? I don't know." And it's like the thing that Dumbledore warned against, don't fight them. And one of the ladies tries to take down an Auror, and the Auror attacks him, and she gets killed. And then he uses that as like, look, we're being oppressed by the government, and go off and tell everyone that the Aurors killed us in our peaceful protest or whatever. So everybody takes off, and when Grindelwald was looking over the body of the martyr who died, the Niffler comes around, like, oh, look what he picked. And yeah, so then we have the final showdown. And Genpai. So, after all the people teleport out of there, it's not apparating. They kind of teleport up and out. It's apparition is the kind of speech, but a lot of these people are just getting beamed up to the starship Voldemort, and so a bunch of them leave. The Aurors stay. Some of his followers stay also. They're in the crowd. And he uses, with I think Razia, his assistant, he uses skull, and he makes blue flames around the altar of the cemetery. And I think this is a fiend fire. The same kind of spell that was used to destroy the diadem of Ravenclaw in the Deathly Hallows. But it's blue, and he's using the skull as some method of control or something. So he tells everyone, come join me in the circle, and then you can, be free or something like that. But if you're outside and don't join them and you try to teleport out of there, then the fire kind of tries to attack you and maybe kills you. I'm not really sure. So a lot of his followers go in there and they teleport out of there. I'm not saying apparate because it's like boom. And and this is why I think Kroll was a plant, because when Kroll tries to get into the circle with Grindelwald, he gets burned, and like the Marvel Thanos snap turns into ashes, kind of like Voldemort also. So maybe Grindelwald knew that Kroll was a agent for someone else, or maybe he just didn't trust him or something. But yeah, he was kind of a throwaway character, unless there was some reason why he existed in the movie. It seemed like he did nothing. He just went over there. Hey, what are you doing? And just told him a little bit of information, and then he died. So okay. And then some of the other people, he tries to attack Newt and Theseus, and they kind of block the blue fire with red fire, and it's like, oh. Queenie and Jacob are together, and Queenie's like, come on, let's join him, he's the way for us to be together, and stuff like that. And Jacob's like, no, you're crazy, and she does, and she goes and joins them and gets teleported out of there. Credence and Nagini are together, and Credence is like, oh, I'm gonna go join them, and Nagini doesn't, so they separate. And then Lita Lestrange is like, Grindelwald, and Grindelwald's like, oh, I know you, Lita. You've been kind of, you have a history of being picked on and not loved, and what, I forget what he says, but it's like, please join me. And he turns his back, kind of leads her to the circle. But she just stands there and doesn't join him, and he just walks off like, okay. Walks into the circle, and then she fires she turns to Newt and Theseus and says, I love you, and fires a spell at Grindelwald, and he blocks it, and then she throws another spell at Rosier, or whoever's holding the skull, and it breaks, and then the fiend fire, I think, gets out of control, and she gets killed, and they're like, oh, Grindelwald says, I hate Paris, and takes off. And so they're in the cemetery with the fiend fire, and it's getting out of control. It's going, wow, fire, fire, fire. And then we have Nicholas Flamel popping up, and it's like, hey, I'm here for battle after 200 years. Okay, cool. So he's like, all right, everybody, stick your wands in the ground and do the what's the Incartum Infinite spell, or in the magic spell, and so they all stick their wands in the ground, and it's red fire, and the blue fire escapes the underground and starts on the upper level, on the street level of the cemetery, and it turns into a bunch of dragons and stuff like that, and that's why I think it's fiend fire. And it's like, rah, 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 and they use their red fire to stop it, and then that was it. Yay! They stopped Paris from burning with the help of Nicholas Flamel. And the final scene is, I guess there are two scenes. Newt goes back to Hogwarts and says, "Hey," he goes talk to Dumbledore, while his ministry friend or his brother and stuff, give him space, and he shows him, "Hey, look, my Niffler took this this vial, which was," and he's like, "Oh, this is a blood pack, isn't it?" And Dumbledore was like, "Yeah." So we finally find out that reason why we can't, why Dumbledore and Grindelwald can't Grindelwald can't fight. And it's like, okay, and Dumbledore says, maybe I can destroy it, and if he can destroy it, then he can fight Grindelwald. So that's the end of that, and then but we still have Queenie with Grindelwald and Credence. And Queenie's like telling Grindelwald, using her magic to like, oh, he's a little bit unsure, or nervous or whatever, and Grindelwald's all right. And then he gives. No, he goes over to Credence and says, "Oh, Credence, my boy, I'm gonna hook you up with your name." And come by. And it's like, your name is Aurelius Dumbledore. And then the Credence doesn't know who the fuck that is, so. And he's like, "Oh, there's a story in your family that a phoenix will come to a Dumbledore in need," or something like that. And it's like, yeah. Dumbledore and the phoenix and stuff like that. I've already talked about in part 1 or 2 where it's like, that doesn't make any sense, because when Dumbledore was super down, he didn't have a phoenix, so. When his sister died and stuff, there was no phoenix. Or if there was, it wasn't part of his, like, oh, attack me or kill me. Yeah, when he told Newt Scamander that story, he didn't mention that, oh, I have a phoenix that came to me. So, from what I gathered, he still doesn't have a phoenix yet. And in the time of need, it doesn't seem to be true either. And another thing about this Phoenix stuff, a lot of people, hey, yo, what's up? Hey. A lot of people say that Aurelius, the name that he gave him, Aurelius Dumbledore, must be true because there was a phoenix in the scene, and that phoenix must be Fox, and so that must be true. Yeah, so unless there was a name tag on that phoenix that said this is Phoenix, the same Phoenix that is Dumbledore's Phoenix, Fox, and something, then that could just be a totally different Phoenix. And yeah, I think people aren't understanding that there are many Phoenixes. There isn't only one Phoenix in the world. Because Ollivander, the wand maker, makes wands. And he uses unicorn hair, dragon heartstring, and phoenix feathers. The wands that made Harry Potter's wand and Voldemort's wand came from the same phoenix. And he says that phoenix gave only one other feather. So that phoenix gave only 2 feathers. So all of the other feathers, phoenix feathers that Ollivander uses, come from other phoenixes. Phoenix Eye? I don't know. So there are a bunch of phoenixes. And is it possible that Grindelwald just got another phoenix from somewhere and said, look, the phoenix is here? And I'm sure if Grindelwald was Dumbledore's boyfriend, Dumbledore would have said, "Oh, you know the Phoenix in my family," and something. So maybe Grindelwald knew that story. It's like, "Oh yeah, yeah." And here's a little bit of story for you about your family to give more credibility to my claim. So yeah, didn't really think that was a big deal about there was a phoenix. There's a shitload of phoenixes. There are a shitload of unicorns. There are a shitload of dragons. There are a shitload of phoenixes. So yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And people are like, oh, and then Credence blows a hole in the side of a mountain. And that was it. That was a movie. I thought it was a good movie. I liked it, but then again, I am I'm a Potterhead here. I like Harry Potter, and so I've gone through the books and read them and done Pottermore stuff and stuff like that. So, I'm not your average moviegoer with this series. But your average moviegoer that doesn't follow this, like, if this is the first Harry Potter movie, you're like, who the hell are all these people? It's like joining a like World of Warcraft game, like third expansion. It's like, oh, or well, this would be ninth expansion. Oh, what is all this? Oh, and you need all the backstory to know what the hell's going on. It's like, oh, okay, well, I don't have any of that backstory. I didn't even put the light on. You have light. So, yeah, that's where we are. A couple of the big unanswered questions. Who is Credence? I think that's a big one. One question that I want answered is, what was that organization that Nicholas Flamel was working with? Who are they? Where did they come from? Who are their members? That's something that I think would be super cool. If you got Nicholas Flamel, like he's got his own Great Wizards trading card, and he's part of that organization. That's probably a cool organization. So Credence, Nicholas Flamel. Yeah, what happens to Nagini? The Nagini story, that'd be interesting. Because she's gonna do her own thing. The thing with Nagini being the darkest part of Indonesia and stuff like that. The actress being Korean and stuff like that. I'd like to see some more, how the Maledictus curse works and stuff. McGonagall, when she was born, maybe way, way older than anyone thinks. That'd be pretty cool. And what's another loose end? Oh, well, we want to see what happens with Tina and Newt, of course. I think we know what happens to them. I think that's already in Pottermore, so we know what happens to them in Pottermore. But, yeah. Also, some of the other mysteries or stuff. Why does Grindelwald have the different colored eyes? Is that the Grindelwald eye, Mad Eye Moody's eye, and some of the other theories? What is the Obscurus? Is the Obscurus the same ghost thing the like smoke thing that comes out of Horcruxes when you try to kill them? Is that the same thing that made the image of Hermione and Harry making out? Um, what is the Obscurus and how does it relate to Horcruxes and stuff like that? Is it part of a soul? So there's some unanswered questions, and it's gonna be maybe enjoyable or kind of like face palming or kind of like okay, I guess we can go with that. When we see what happens in the future, but yeah. So yeah, that was a long ass explanation. About maybe 2 hours of explaining the story, the plot, and stuff. Some ideas on that. There are a bunch of people who do theories and stuff like that. Some of them are alright, but some of them just kind of like, well, you're just, you know, jumping, kind of ignoring some things. Some of the theories I've heard is like, oh, Ariana was raped by the Muggles when she was a kid, and she gave birth, and the child is Credence or something. It's like, no, that didn't happen. You're just making up shit because Dumbledore's father did kill the boys, but I don't, and rape would be a reason to kill them, but I don't think that's like super dark. And this movie just went a little bit dark with a little bit, still dark with the Imperiatus curse on Yusuf's Kama's mother and raping her and having Lita Lestrange with that woman. That's still terrible, but yeah. So let me know if you have some other ideas of plot holes or something. What went on, and but I think I covered all the points. McGonagall isn't that big a deal. I think there are lots of ways out with that, and the blood pact, that was kind of new. I can go with that. And yeah, all right. So that was it. I'll talk to you guys later. I want to make the end of year videos, so like the best game and the best stuff of this year. So, all right, everyone, come by. Bye bye. Talk to you guys later.